Nick Ferrari at breakfast on LBC.
Really trying to hit the news agenda today because this is another front page we're giving you, and it's only 8:05. White British pupils are being overtaken at school by students from 10 other ethnic groups by the time they sit their GCSE, so says an alarming new report. At the age of 5, white British students are among the top 3 highest achievers. Their shocking slip down the rankings by the time they reach 16 was blamed on the education system and their parents. More on this in a moment. The trend renews concerns about the underachievement of white working-class pupils, particularly boys, which MPs have previously labelled as, quote, staggeringly low. The researchers are from the Centre Forum think tank. They say pupils without English as a first language make faster progress because teachers help them catch up. And this is crucial, by the way, instead of blaming people coming from other countries, maybe we need to look to ourselves to a degree. Their families are more supportive. Education experts say white British children are let down by schools and by parents who do not fully support their education. In contrast, immigrant children are keen to make use of the educational opportunities on offer and receive considerable support from aspirational families. How depressing is that? Is it true? Let's speak with Lorrae, who's co-managing director of JK Educate, an educational consultancy. Does this chime with you? Good morning.
Good morning, Nick. Yes, it does chime with us. Absolutely. In my 30 years of experience, this is what I have seen firsthand, both in schools and with the clients we work with.
Why would it appear, then, that particularly white boys, but white kids are faring so badly?
I think the report talks about parental engagement, and unfortunately, what I've experienced is that those parents who need to come to Parents' Evening don't appear, and those who
neither mum nor dad goes to a Parents' Day, Parents' Night.
Correct.
Good
They
God.
do not appear at Parents' Evening. They don't engage with school. They don't appear to have had a good experience themselves of school, and so they don't seem to value it in the same way as some of the ethnic minority groups would do. They don't go to the school trips. They don't supervise homework. Things like eating together as a family, having regular meal times, bedtimes and routines, reading together, buying books, having good routines and consistency. It's that valuing and the expectations, the support that they're talking about.
This really is, if anybody asks for the definition of a vicious cycle, this is presumably a vicious circle. This is what we've got here then, is it? Because
Yes,
children who perhaps weren't encouraged by parents who didn't really have any interest in Parents' Night or school reports, then become parents themselves, so it just continues, and then become grandparents. I don't see how we ever get out of this.
That's right. I think in latter years, hopefully, as you said, as grandparents, people will reflect on it and see that there is another way. But we have definitely got into this cycle now. And it is so obvious when, for example, we work with our ethnic minority groups of parents, they have a completely different attitude. And no matter how much or how little money they have, the priority is their children, their education, and to support them getting on in life.
The Daily Mail, and it needs to be said, the Daily Mail is taking a pretty hostile idea to staying within Europe. It's a pretty pro-Brexit paper. The Daily Mail says this is an example of how mass migration has damaged the prospects of a generation of young Britons. That's not wholly fair, then, from what I'm hearing from you.
That's not wholly fair at all, because actually any person can achieve, and it's all about that parental engagement behind it. They talk about English as a foreign language students coming in. In my experience, again, working with families and children, the English as a foreign language children are doing well because they've got that support. There may be some truth in they are being diverted, teaching is being diverted to those children at times, but that doesn't stop other white children getting on. If they have parental engagement behind them, then there's no reason why they shouldn't be doing equally as well.
Lorrae is co-managing director of JK Educate, an educational consultancy. 9 stories. Schools are offering new teachers corporate-style packages, a gym membership, a golden hello to lure them into jobs. This is as the recruitment crisis intensifies. Other perks include generous health packages, childcare vouchers worth thousands of pounds, a particularly acute shortage in English and maths. Let's speak with someone who can give us some pointers on this. Lorrae Yarderberg is co-managing director of Yarderberg Craze Educational Consultancy and joins me now. Why don't people want to be teachers then?
Good morning, Nick.
Good morning.
I think they do want to be teachers, and I think that's the problem. People really want to be teachers, but they're finding conditions very, very difficult and very challenging at the moment.
In what way difficult?
I think that this article highlights the need to bring new teachers in of high quality, because at the moment they are finding the consistent conditions a problem. When somebody goes into school, they're full of the joys of spring. They want to do a good job. And then slowly they start to see how difficult the job is, how difficult the conditions are, and they become disenfranchised with it. They want to actually stay, but find themselves in a dilemma that they can't. And we meet a lot.
Sorry, so they can't stay, what, because it's too hard? The work is too hard?
I would say the work is absolutely fine. It's not the work, it's often the conditions that people
Sorry, what do you mean by conditions?
So, for example, the workload might be too heavy alongside working very late hours, alongside the new government proposals that might have just come in, some additional training they've got to do, and then face-to-face work in the classroom being quite challenging.
Well, what did they expect?
Well,
doesn't everybody know? Teaching obviously has enormous rewards, but I think it'd be ridiculous to expect it any than a tough old gig, tough old job.
I agree with you. I think it is a tough gig, but the problem is there are other opportunities as well out there now. And so people are saying to themselves, do I really want to do that, or should I go elsewhere and where the rewards are going to be higher and I'm going to have an easier life?
So when the teachers' unions say, this is because, and I am brutally simplifying their argument, it's because we don't pay our teachers enough, that's not the whole picture, you would argue.
I would agree. It's not the whole picture. We meet lots of teachers when we're interviewing them for our work where that is not the whole picture. They would stay, but there are other aspects to it which are making it too difficult.
And lastly, your view on these golden hellos, gym membership, shopping vouchers, all sorts of things like that.
Well, it's a great perk, but it's not going to last. That's the problem. It's not sustainable for people. And I think it's an idea, but they're not looking at the real issues behind it.
And why English and maths particularly, would you say? If that accords with the research or what you know with the work you're doing with Yarderberg Craze, why is it English and maths that's got a particular shortage?
I would say that there is a big focus because of the lack of performance, so they do need to get better teachers into schools to look at that. I would say that the mathematicians are going elsewhere, into computing, into big jobs elsewhere. They don't need to go into schools any longer, and they don't need to be paid at that lower rate. English is particularly difficult. It's the same problem. They can go off and do other things. They don't need to go into schools, so they're not attracted any longer into that role.
Fascinating speaking with you. Thank you for your input. That's Lorrae Yarderberg, who's co-managing director of Yarderberg Craze, an educational consultancy.